Welcome to the Townsend Institute podcast series, Tips, a show produced by the Townsend Institute at Concordia University, Irvine. This podcast provides tips into leadership, coaching, and counseling topics aimed at helping listeners grow in both their personal and professional lives. I'm Dr. John Townsend, psychologist, organizational consultant, and author of over 30 books, including the New York Times best-selling Boundaries series. I'm also the founder of the Townsend Institute, and I'm excited to introduce your podcast hosts, Townsend Institute Program Directors Dr. Ashley Andrew and Dr. Gilbert Fugit.
Welcome back to the Townsend Institute podcast series. We are back in studio with our founder, Dr. John Townsend, as he brings you more great content stemming from his decades of experience in counseling, consulting, and leadership.
That's right, Gilbert. And today's topic is a great one. Well, I think everyone will take something away from this episode. If you are a leader, manager, coach, business owner, or the like, stop what you're doing and take notes. Unless, of course, you're driving or working out, then just listen up and visit cui.edu/Townsend for a digital copy of today's topic, the organizational funnel. We've got a lot to cover, so let's get started.
Today, Ashley and I are so lucky again to have our founder and friend, Dr. John Townsend here, and he's going to talk about something called the organizational funnel. John, let's jump into this. What is the organizational funnel?
Actually, Gilbert, it's a structure to help people understand what the organization, the aspects of the organization to make it work, like the building blocks. Mm-hmm. But it's in a funnel, meaning here's where you start. There's the big, when you got a funnel, I don't know, you're going to put like a coffee in and it comes out in a cup or whatever. It's big to little, right? Yeah. So it starts off with the highly conceptual stuff, but then it comes down to the really granular stuff. And it gives people a way to evaluate the organization, like, oh, maybe we're missing a step here, because every organization, and I promise you, whether it's Google or whether it's a small ministry in the developing country, you need those as much as you can get them. It's the essentials of the building blocks.
Can you walk us through just kind of briefly what those different levels or stages of the funnel look like?
Absolutely. And well, like we said, let's start from broad to narrow, because that's how we ought to think. I mean, everything starts, as we know, you guys are some of the top leaders I know, starts with mission. And what is mission? Mission's your purpose. Mission's your North Star. It's like how you know if you're on track with why you have this organization in the first place, why you're in it. Nothing's more important than mission. And after that, then it comes down to vision. And what is vision? Well, sometimes people get those a little confused. Yeah. Are they the same thing? But it's very, really simple. Mission is your purpose. Clear on your purpose. Vision is what drives you to your purpose. It's emotional. It's future focused. It's where you want to be. In 10 years, we want to be, covering North America with our shoes or whatever. It gets people excited because people sometimes get bored with mission. It's kind of like we make great potatoes. I get it, but it's a purpose. Vision gets you galvanized and catalyzed. Values are next. And we all know, everybody knows kind of the mission, vision, values triad. And those are the essential things that when there's a question or a sort of like, we don't know what's going on here, well, what do our core values state? And that's where companies come up with things like excellence, people-oriented, integrity. And I always say, don't have more than 7. Try for 5 if you can have it, because after that, people's eyes start rolling. But get those essential things. And those 3 things, if you don't have those, don't do anything else in your business. Keep the phone ringing, but you go off into a strategic retreat and get that going.
That's great.
Down from there is structure, because you've got to have a way to understand who reports to whom and where the authority is and where the decisions are made. In an organizational structure, chart is very, we all know what they look like, but you've got to have one laid out, mapped out so people can see it on one piece of paper. And then after that, you would go into culture, because culture is huge, like all the research, as well as, what the Bible says. It says that the way people are treated is going to be how they work. And so how do people team up? How do people trust? How do people feel aligned? How do people feel like they belong, they're a resource? Culture's huge. From there, then you have your goals. Now that you sort of got your house built, now where do you want this house to go? That was really a bad analogy, because houses don't really go anywhere unless you're like living in a mobile home. I would say let's call it a car. Where do you want this car to go? Well, there's your goals. We want to achieve X by X time. That's what a goal is. What ROI I want to have, what KPI I want to have by X amount of time. From there, you got to have a plan. What is that? Strategic plan. And that's when by these sort of iterative points, these inflection points, we want to achieve something by then, so we can map that out. And after the strategic plan, and which also involves, follow through and execution stuff and monitoring and adjusting and tweaking, that's all in the strategic plan. Then you go to tactics, and tactics are what are the things we do? We increase this product, we decrease this product, we open this market. They're the tactical behaviors, and under that is vital behaviors. And vital behaviors is just what are the actual behaviors and actions people are doing to do all this. And it helps people to know here's how the horse, not the horse, and not the house. Here's how the car runs, and where we need to put more time and energy.
I like that. I don't think it matters what you're talking about: horse, house, car, whatever it is. John, we got you. So just to recap, you're talking about big picture, starting at the top, how important that is: mission, vision, values. Moving down to structure, culture, goals, the plan, the tactics, and the vital behaviors. These are also key. And, you, of course, have extensive experience and history coaching, consulting, leading organizations. I'm assuming there had to have been kind of a catalyst for your development here of the funnel. Was there a particular experience or what was it that really drove you to kind of put the pen to the paper about these important ideas?
Well, this is back in the day when I was working with a lot of leaders, and they were saying, and this kind of I had the clinical part going, the psychology part, but then leaders would come to me and say, look, I have a business and I'm not depressed, and I've got a nice marriage and good kids and all that. But I like what you say, and I want to see if you can work within a context of business. So I began relearning everything of how all this stuff, we have what we call an Institute, a growth model of how people can grow. And I changed it or added to it how organizations can grow using the same concept about relationship and truth and all that. And I realized that as I studied people and who had very, very well done organizations and authors I like, they had something like a funnel. I wouldn't call it that, but they would say they had an approach to putting a structure together for the organization. I went, that's really important. So I designed one that has a lot of their elements in it, but it's our style.
I love it, John, as we're looking at this, actually, how far down goals are. Because people kind of
Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
It's not intuitive, is it?
No, because you always think, oh, I'm doing this. We got to have our goal first. No, you have a lot of things before you even get to that.
Yeah. Well, think about if you had to go out and get cardiac surgery, and you're lying there and somebody's going to cut up in your chest. And that person said, yeah, really, I haven't been to school yet, but, I know that my goal is to give you a good heart. Well, you haven't been to school yet? No, but I'll go one day. I mean, there's preparation and, planning and sifting through and figuring it all out. And people that go into goals, but they don't know the structure, they end up, the goals are very frustrating for them. You've heard, you guys are all over the map in leadership. You've heard that statement where people say, well, there's ready, aim, fire, and then there's fire, fire, fire.
Yes.
And that's a person that goes with the goals without having this stuff done, it's going to be fire, 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 and they're going to feel really, really frustrated. They've got to be patient with themselves and have people help them spend the time building the top of the funnel.
Yeah, because if you rush that, it feels like you probably waste so much time. And burn people out. So.
Yes.
John, so how has this funnel, how's it impacted your own life and leadership?
Well, yeah, it's sort of in the organizations that I work with, as well as my own organization, it's just a clarifier, Gilbert. It's sort of like anytime things are going well, we all go, which part of this worked? And we'll make more of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But anytime there's a problem or a hiccup, there's a money problem, a revenue problem, a culture problem, a product problem, we go, oh, yeah, we need some more work here. So it's a great diagnostic tool to say, build this up, take this down.
That's great. And as you mentioned, you took a lot of information that you were learning and reading from others. Are there any particular authors or speakers that you think really spoke in to your development of the funnel?
Yeah, just a ton, Ashley. Back in the day, the guy that started everything, the Moses of management, they call him, was Peter Drucker.
Oh, yes.
Never met the man, wish I had, but ate up his books because he understood management from a structural level and a relational level. And there's people like Ken Blanchard, who is a dear friend, and also he's one of the top fellows in the Institute. He speaks to our students. And then another fellow is Patrick Lencioni, who has been so instrumental, the number one person in organizational health. And then Jim Collins, who wrote Good to Great and lots of books about organization. You study those guys and you'll see these concepts in what they do.
Wow. So, John, you've been doing this a little while, right? And I'm sure over time, as you've been reading and researching and just working with different leaders, have you rethought any part of your funnel?
Yeah. and I'm still noodling on it because nothing's. I don't use the word ultimate very much because you can always improve something. So this is not the ultimate funnel, because you learn and you grow and you get information. And I have been thinking about maybe underneath the strategic plan needs to be instead of folding in there execution and monitoring and accountability. Maybe that needs to be a separate section because how many organizations do you know that have a killer strat plan? Oh, yeah, we're going to take over Australia and do it in 2 years. And it got its maps and, these timelines and nothing happens. Why? Well, we got busy. We got off mission. But if you've got underneath that monitoring, I haven't figured out the word yet. It's either going to be monitoring, follow through, execution, something like that. I think that would improve it.
Execution is what came to my mind right away. It's one of the things we talk about in some of our programs here. We've got 4 disciplines of execution, and that's really what that whole model and book gets at, right, Gilbert?
I was thinking of that cadence of accountability or a scoreboard. Yeah. To really
you can have everybody go woo-woo about the plan, but then what are we doing about it? And people, I've been really busy. Well, no, not if you've got the accountability going on and the champions and all that stuff.
All right, John, you've given us some great background and explanation on all the different parts of the organizational funnel. For those of our listeners that are part of our Townsend Institute or have studied your work and know what we stress with the Townsend growth model, can you share with us how the growth model integrates with the pieces of the organizational funnel?
It's a great question, actually, because kind of one of our secret sauces is that we have a model of growth on a personal level to be a better person who's doing well and feeling good and got great relationships. And how would that apply to this? It is essential. Because look at the growth model, how you relate, how you tell the truth, how you have good boundaries, how you deal with self-judgment, how you feel like an equal person, all those important things, they're the building block to being a healthy person with healthy lives and families and teams. It is a lens to look at these aspects of the funnel. And I would tell anybody to go ahead and look through the things that we said if you're kind of getting a feel or a vibe for this through the lens. I'll give you an example. Mission. How does anybody know their mission if they hate themselves? If they're if they're too hard on themselves, or if they're feel like it's all on them, well, their mission's probably going to reflect harshness to themselves, or maybe it's too high because they try to do too much people pleasing. What about vision? Well, your vision is emotional. Are you in touch with your emotions? People that have no emotional context or this sort of thing because it was not okay to have emotions, or they're so left-brained they can't be right-brained, they have a really crummy vision. Or values. Well, values are the core things of why you're alive. You've got to be able to think about, in my personal life, what are my core values? I love the idea that our mission statements in our organizations should reflect our personal mission statement. Because the bigger thing is why I'm on the planet, why God put me here. It's not the first thing is the business. Yeah. And I love business, but it's got to reflect from, I've thought deeply on a personal level about who I am and what my purpose is. That's got to be in the values. And then culture, well, goodness gracious, culture is how people relate, how they trust, how they have clash swords to still like each other and this sort of thing. Goals, the same thing. So I'm just walking down that. I'm just saying what we do at the Institute is we take this funnel, but we say you've got to be a growing, healthy, improving person as you're going through this, and it will explode things.
It's really powerful, John. As you think about it, can you think of any maybe success stories of people or organizations that have implemented the funnel and how it's changed it?
Absolutely. I had a consulting client a couple of years ago where they owned an agricultural sector. They were on the East Coast, and I can't say what they are, but they sort of like, if you think about all the things that happen in agriculture, they had one sector, but they were a family-owned business that kind of like owned everything from the beginning. Mm-hmm. So then when second generation took it over, then there's competition. They're seeing all the revenue there. And since they were a family, they'd never had to thought through the funnel. And now all of a sudden, here's the competition coming. And so they called me and said, what do we do? I said, we're going to have some retreats. We brought the team together and we redid their entire, they had a good mission statement, but the vision statement was, I thought, like, hey, we do a great job of making shoes. It was not very exciting. So we talked about their personal lives, their families, what gets them going, what their fears are. And we just talked about them as people. And then we said, now take this, what you just learned, and recreate this. They only had 3 or 4 parts of it. I think they had goals and a mission and some behaviors, but fill in the blanks. And we filled in the blanks, and they are rocking it.
That's a great success story. People first, right? That's our organizations and businesses.
There you go.
They're made up of people.
You cannot overstate that. Yes.
So good. All right, John. Well, thank you so much for all you've shared here today. As you know, we end all of our episodes with asking you, what is your takeaway tip for our listeners today?
Well, we have a takeaway tip, and it's a gift at the same time. You got on the right podcast,
there you
folks.
go. Lucky
you. Because we have a link, because this is a visual thing, and I wouldn't say, well, okay, draw out those aspects on a cocktail napkin, have a nice day. You're probably working out right now or doing laundry or something, so you're not going to do that, and you're busy. So we have a link for you to go to, and we'll tell you what it is at the end, but it's going to have the visual of the funnel. And once you get that visual, download it, put it in your phone or whatever, and then look through it and go, where are we missing and where are we strong? And it will begin to change everything in your organization.
That's great, John. Thanks so much, because I'm sure so many of them are thinking, well, we got 2 or 3, but we don't have all of these.
Yeah.
And this is so good. So again, thank you so much for being here. Thanks for looking at the organizational funnel. This is helpful to all of our listeners, and we'll make sure the link is there. And we just excited to have you on again.
Always fun, guys. Thank you.
Thanks. Take care.
Special thanks to Gadesalabawa, CY alumni, for the Tips Podcast music. If you enjoyed the Townsend Institute podcast series, head to our website, cui.edu/Townsend, to find out more about the certificates or bachelor's, master's, or doctoral degrees offered through Concordia University, Irvine. With programs in organizational psychology, mental health counseling, executive coaching consulting, and organizational leadership, we have a variety of faith-based programs dedicated to helping you fulfill your academic and professional goals, all while further developing your competence and character. Again, that's cui.edu/Townsend.